Okay.
There we go.
Live? Hello.
I can hear you now.
Good evening. Please turn off your phones. Welcome to the June 1st, 2022 regular meeting of the Eureka Springs Historic District Commission. I'm Dee Bright, Vice Chair, sitting in as chair tonight. Kyle, would you call the roll, please?
Dee Bright,
Here.
Marty Kogan,
Yeah.
Peter Graham.
Here.
Kyle Palmer is present, Judy Holden,
Here.
and Maggie Hayde and Steve Hallfeld are absent.
With notice.
Thank you.
We have a quorum for business. The Eureka Springs Historic District Commission is empowered by the Eureka Springs Municipal Code to issue a certificate of appropriateness for alterations of exterior architectural features, demolition, and new construction within the boundaries of the Eureka Springs Historic District. The HDC uses the Eureka Springs Historic District Guidelines and the U.S. Department of Interior Standards for the rehabilitation of historic buildings as the basis for our decision. The Commission can take the following actions on an application: approval with modifications, denial or deferral for more information. Appeal of denial may be made to the Circuit Court. Public comments will be heard on each or at the end of the meeting. Are there any changes or additions to tonight's agenda? If not, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda as proposed.
Second. Kyle made the motion, Judy seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have no old business, new business, Level 2, 34 North Main, build limestone retaining wall. Level 2, 223 Spring, install new metal fence, install metal staircase, build 2 rear decks, rebuild rear limestone retaining wall, and install steps. We'll stop there. 34 North Main, do we have someone present for, would you come back up to the mic and state your name and address, please?
Hey guys, I am Dan Halverson with Eureka Style Rock Walls. I live at 16 Pyramid Lane out in Holiday Island. Got displaced by the Airbnb thing. But yeah, I'm here to answer any questions you guys have about the retaining wall we're going to be building for Jason and Lori Bridges.
Okay. Kylie?
The property at 34 North Main Street is a two-part commercial building constructed in 1910. The property is non-contributing to the historic district. The applicant is seeking a certificate of appropriateness to install a approximately 30-foot-long limestone retaining wall on the south side of the property. In evaluating the request for alterations at 34 North Main, staff makes the following findings of fact. Alterations are to a highly altered, non-contributing building. The proposed retaining wall is of appropriate character and design. The proposed alterations align with standards and guidelines, and staff recommends approval of this agenda item.
I move that the Historic District Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the work at 34 North Main as proposed.
Second.
Judy made the motion, Kyle seconded. Do we have questions or discussion?
I have a question for you guys. I think Kylie gave you guys some pictures and some stuff of what I'm going to be doing. I had her submit a picture of a rock wall I'm building at the Peabody right now, and it's going to have the same kind of aesthetic look to it, the wall that I'm going to be building for Jason and Lori. You can see in that picture I've actually incorporated like an old Peabody 1883 stone into the wall. They had it like sitting around from the 90s, so I thought it'd be cool to actually put it to use. Me and Jason the other day, we were talking about possibly, going out and having Joel out at Stoneworks cut some kind of stone to inlay into their wall as well, something to kind of give some more prominence to the wall. And we didn't know if you guys would allow that, or if you guys preferred any kind of thing, because we were thinking about maybe, having Joel wet cut something, that looks like a really cool tree and inlay it, or maybe something, welcome to Eureka Springs, and inlay it. But because I didn't have specifics at the time, because we were just kind of like kicking the idea around after I had already submitted things, I just kind of wanted to get your guys' input before we really locked onto that idea. You know what I mean? Or would that be like a separate, when I
No.
bring the wall up, I go ahead and submit, hey, this is the idea of the rock that we're wanting to inlay. Do you guys approve of this rock? I don't know.
Kylie? I have noticed that they were putting this, but it has sat there on the stairway of the Peabody for years and years, so I didn't think anything about them, because it had sat there forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing in current guidelines that would prevent that. I think that the design consideration, Dan, would just be that it's an accent piece like the example at the Peabody and not something that draws too much attention
Okay,
or is a distraction, but
okay,
there's nothing in
Yeah,
guidelines
there's
that would
nothing in the
prevent it.
guidelines.
okay.
Go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say that, also, I like the Peabody style, the font, like how it gives it that old look.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Rather than like.
Classic.
kinda Like the new font that's like real bolded and stuff might
Yeah.
not be appropriate, but I
Yeah,
would say
everything,
it's with that.
yeah, because it's such, I know it's a non-contributing building, but when you walk past, James and Teresa's old place, and then there's Jason and Lori's parking area, and then the gallery at 34 North Main, there's that big open expanse right there. So it's going to be almost like a mural, if you will, the face of the wall. And so it's like, okay, people are going to be walking by. We want it to look beautiful. We want everybody to enjoy it. I just want to make sure that you guys are okay with whatever we do. And whatever we would do, it would be definitely tasteful. It wouldn't be, some crazy, nothing like that.
I have a question. Why the Keystone?
So when I did the Peabody one, it was just kind of like an unused stone that they had done a lot of work over there in the 90s. And so I just decided, instead of it just sitting there, nobody sees it, and it's just kind of hanging out, why don't we make it a nice piece?
It was setting up on the top level, if you know.
No, I know where it
Oh,
was
okay.
sitting, but it's not historic to the wall. In other words, and I think it stands out
Sure.
and changes the aspect of the entire wall.
The aesthetics of it, yeah. Yeah, I understand that point, which is kind of why I want to bring it up, because I didn't know, because the way I submitted it, it didn't have an aesthetic stone inlaid into the design. And
Right.
it's kind of a new, like a curveball, and it's not anything that we've finalized, it was just an idea we were kicking around.
But like Kylie said, there's nothing in the code one way or the other.
Okay,
Yeah, you're building a new wall, so
Okay.
by my estimation,
I'm within code guidelines.
yeah, however you do, whatever course you decided to lay the stone in, or artistic design elements within what you've proposed would be at your discretion.
Okay. Well, that being said, like what you were saying, it won't be anything crazy. I would want to make, if we decide to do something like that, because it would be an extra cost incurred on the homeowner, if we decide to do that, I would want to make sure that it's tasteful and doesn't disrupt the whole flow of everything that's going on right there. You know what I mean? With James's place and the gallery, I would want it to be, So that's all I got.
Okay, any other discussion?
I just have one question. Is that a bluff line there, or is there an existing retaining wall at the moment?
No, there's nothing there. It's just raw.
Oh, okay.
Raw landmass.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Yay.
Kyle will give you your
Yeah,
certificate.
hold on 1 second.
Sure. Hey, and I really appreciate you guys, what y'all do.
Thank
Thank y'all.
you.
Groovy, man.
So are you done up there on Armstrong?
Almost.
Almost.
I was done, and then, I was almost done, and then weather happened, and my truck got hit by my neighbor, and so it's
Oh.
taken a little bit longer to finish it off. But I probably got, because I know you live right down there.
Well,
probably-
yeah, I have a house up there, so,
Probably Saturday I'll be done with it.
okay. It's looking nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys.
Okay, 223 Spring. State your name and address, please.
My name is Penny Pemberton. My address, hello, how are you? Nice to see you, Dee. My address is 448 County Road 207.
Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Haven't seen from you in a long time.
Nope.
Okay, Kylie?
This is a long one. so.
Okay.
The property at 223 Spring Street is a single-family residence with new traditional and craftsman influences constructed in 2000. The applicant is seeking a certificate of appropriateness for the following items: to install a black ornamental steel fence and gates that would match the neighbors across the front of the property, which is approximately 40 feet, 6 inches in total length. They also want to install 2 welded steel staircases on the north and south ends of the property with composite treads. The southern staircase would replace the existing wooden stairs. They are also hoping to rebuild the rear retaining wall and install limestone steps to the backyard. They are also seeking to construct 2 wooden decks. One of them would be 17 feet by 11 feet on the northeast corner of the home, and the other would be 12 feet by 8 feet on the eastern side of the detached garage. Both of these would be composite material. In evaluating the request for alterations at 223 Spring Street, staff makes the following findings of fact. Alterations are to a non-contributing building constructed in 2000. The work on the fence, stairs, and retaining wall is all appropriate and aligns with design guidelines. The addition of the garage deck is appropriately scaled and located. The proposed deck on the northeast corner of the house, while not located at the rear of the building, would be largely shielded from public view by the breezeway that connects the house and detached garage. Additionally, due to the distance from public right-of-way, the composite decking would be indistinguishable from wood. The proposed alterations align with standards and guidelines. Staff recommends approval of this agenda item.
Do I have a motion?
I move that the Historic District Commission issue a certificate of appropriateness for the work at 223 Spring Street as proposed.
Second.
Judy made the motion. Peter seconded. Discussion? Questions?
Was there not a deck built there last fall?
I think there was.
Which I don't remember them applying here for permission?
No, ma'am, they have no,
No deck?
there's the original deck that was built in 2000, but this is the deck off the back of the garage. So there's no new deck at 223 Spring. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's a neighboring house that
okay.
perhaps.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Don't be a stranger. Good to see you. She used to be here like every other week. Consent agenda. Level 1 applications that the city preservation officer believes to be in accordance with the design guidelines, and commissioner or member of the public may move any consent agenda item to the regular agenda for discussion. Level 1, 35B, North Main, new signage. Victoria Kolbosch, applicant, Susan Paul, owner. Did everyone sign the packet? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as proposed.
A second? Okay. Kyle made the motion, Judy seconded. Any discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Administrative approvals by the City Preservation Officer, applications for repair and work involving no changes in materials, changes in roofing and paint color and signs. And these are all on the website that you can review if you want. Commissioner business, April's treasurer's report. Judy's going to do it since Maggie's absent.
Our present balance as of April 30th is $8,879.98.
I move to approve the treasurer's report as presented.
Do I have a second? Artie or Peter? Okay. Kyle made the motion, Peter seconded. All in favor of the treasurer's report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye.
Well, we haven't seen it, so we don't know whether there's anything that we object to or not. Thank you. 73 cents were added to the account, all right.
Okay. So is your vote an aye?
Yeah.
Okay, so motion carries 5-0. Procedural revision discussion.
So at the last meeting, I gave everybody a packet that had procedures that we've discussed already in green, and then new things in red. Does anybody need another copy of that?
Do you have a copy in your hand?
I have 4 copies in my hand.
I'll have, because I don't have it, I just had it on the, I didn't print it out.
If we're going to discuss it, I didn't bring it. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh, wait, did I print it out?
So I had given this to you all at our meeting 2 weeks ago. It's a combination. It's a combination of things we've already talked about, recommendations from the Lakota Group and the State Preservation Office, as well as things that were taken from recommendations out of the focus groups that we did last fall as part of the guidelines revision process. It really seemed like a lot of the feedback that we got from different stakeholders in the community honestly had to do with procedural changes more than guidelines changes. And I know we've kind of talked about that a couple times, that doing the guidelines in some ways were difficult because what people wanted to talk about were procedural questions, application questions, ways to make the process more efficient. So, you know, I'd just like to hear any thoughts that you all have about any of these proposed changes or any questions.
Was this a meeting of the public?
Yes, last fall.
Sorry?
Last fall, yes.
At the library?
Yeah.
At the library.
Yes.
That wasn't very well attended, though, at all.
This isn't solely from that. This is several different,
So where did the other parts of it come from?
I just said. It comes from the state, it comes from the Lakota Group, and it also comes
Right,
from,
but from the citizens of Eureka Springs, there was very little feedback.
well, there was feedback on the Google form that I released to the public with the design guidelines. I would say all of those comments I got back were procedural in nature rather than
Right.
on the guidelines. And this is the first proposal that you all have seen, so.
Will you just remind me the difference between the red and the green?
Yeah, so green are things that the commission has already discussed and agreed to do. And then red is either stuff that is reworked or reworded for clarity.
And there's some that has been struck out. Has there been anything that's been added, or is that part of the red?
That's part of the red.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because like down under on page 3, under secretary, it says secretary may only serve for 2 consecutive years at a time. That's struck out, but it says that up above, so it's just redundant, so.
Yeah, there were
Yeah.
several of those that
So that's,
were either unclear or redundant or things that are in there but the commission doesn't do and doesn't need to do, really, so.
What I believe is we can print out 100 pages of changes to the guidelines, additions to the guidelines, procedural matters. But if we don't have code enforcement, all of this is for naught. And so one of the main issues that I can see is not revising this. It's determining how we can get code enforcement. Because you can drive around any street in Eureka Springs and you can see violation after violation after violation. And you can see violations where the HDC has issued changes, and those changes have not been followed through. Like there's a weed patch up on Wall Street that we said was illegal, and yet it's standing there. There's a dump on Douglas Street that is definitely illegal, and it's barring auto cars from accessing the road, and that's not been dealt with. There's a metal roof also on Wall Street that is illegal, and that's not been dealt with. So what's the point of spending thousands and thousands of dollars on guidelines if they're not followed and there are no repercussions?
Well, if anybody has any recommendations, I'm happy to convey those to the mayor. As you know, code enforcement is not under HDC's authority.
I understand that,
So-
but it's part and parcel of what we do here.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm just saying it's a little bit outside the scope of what we need to talk about with this item.
the only thing I see, and this is just something because of the folders that we have down, in the file cabinets, and I think those are very important. On page 7, like maintenance and routine and all, and yes, you give that, but like painting, if they would just give a chip, I've always encouraged, hey, go down and talk to Kylie, give her the paint colors, put it in your files so in 100 years somebody can see that. That's the only
Yeah.
thing. We can't make it mandatory, but just encourage them to.
I'm happy if people want to have that added, but as far as
No, it's not.
the application just to repaint your house, that takes a lot of time to administer when we don't have a color palette that people have to stick to. So I don't say no to colors.
No.
So,
But if they could just be encouraged to, hey, when you put your colors, drop it off and we'll put it in your folder. Some people don't know they have those files down there. And that's the
Yeah.
history of your home in this house, in this town. And it is valuable information to like Preservation Society and things.
yeah, I do think that with like the paint color, nowadays you can take a physical paint chip in and color match it. And if you're repainting, if you scrape down, you can find other layers. So we have paint colors going back to the 1980s, which even those aren't the original
Right.
And in most cases, we don't know what the original was. So you have a lot of time administering that, people filling out an application with really no justification to do that, since we don't deny based on different colors.
Well, I'm not asking for them to fill out an application. I'm just saying, if they call you and say, hey, I'm going to paint my house, do I need to fill out an application? Just say no and say, oh, but sometime if you want to drop off it
But
for your folder.
do you remember a few years back when Fatima painted that house up on Armstrong orange?
Yes, I remember.
And that was, we fought and fought that because that did not adhere to the standard at the time. And finally, they did change the color.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So something was in the guidelines at that point.
But we haven't done color in a long time.
Well, that was in
Yeah.
2010. I looked it up the other day. But I think what your idea leaves a pattern of what's been done and what will be done. It leaves a history, and that's what part of the historic district is about, is leaving a history.
So the biggest change would probably be these project levels on page 7. As proposed in this chart here, it would be a change that routine maintenance like repainting or installing wooden storm windows or normal things that people do on a regular basis would not need a COA. They could consult with me, consult guidelines. I think that this is something that citizens have asked for repeatedly, is just stuff that really makes no material difference and doesn't impact the integrity of the building. They get kind of frustrated with the review process. So since the new guidelines have very robust recommendations for what good maintenance needs to look like, and even lays out an annual maintenance checklist, I think that citizens, if they use this properly, would be much better equipped to be doing this routine maintenance with less oversight from the commission. So that would free up both administrative time and also commission time to be doing more education and outreach instead of just compliance and review constantly. Which does go into level 1, just the language that we use to talk about these different project levels. Minor impact projects would be ordinary maintenance that does not involve a change in materials, new and replacement signs, and alterations to non-contributing, excuse me, or non-historic structures, excluding major additions or demolition. So this would be, for example, the property that we just had that was built in 2000. It's not a historic structure. It's not contributing to the district. Those are things that could be approved at the staff level that don't have, a major footprint impact, an addition, things that are clearly outlined in guidelines and don't affect historic resources.
Which that's basically what we've been doing, if it's just minor impact and all.
The change here would be, for example, signage. Instead of it being put on consent agenda and people have to wait 2 weeks to get their business signage approved, as long as it meets code for size and aligns with the new guidelines as far as aesthetic recommendations and the way it's attached to the building, that would be something that could be approved at the staff level for, efficient review. That's pretty standard in historic districts, and that is something that the consultants and the state recommended as well as the non-contributing and non-historic structure changes. So essentially, with the non-contributing and non-historic structures, this would be alterations that by the old guidelines might be considered a level 2. So like putting on a rear deck or swapping out windows or something. If it's a non-contributing resource, it's a non-historic building.
Why are they here?
Exactly. And that's something that I've heard from citizens, and I think everybody that's been on HDC for a while has heard from citizens.
So one comment I would make on that is I like what that addresses, but my concern is our inventory isn't what I would consider up to date. So we've seen a couple instances where it's a non-contributing structure, but since our last survey, that has changed as far if it's could be considered a contributing structure.
And I kind of drilled the consultants on that because I've kind of gone back and forth about the best way for those properties to be handled. And they said, that could be up to the commission. I mean, the district is established with a specific period of significance, and that period of significance ends in 1955. So that's, the point where when they've written the narrative of why the historic district is important, that's the period that it ends. So theoretically, anything after 1955 is non-contributing and isn't part of that story. Now, we might disagree with that, and that's, something that we could look at again in a new survey, but it really seems like if we are looking at the Eureka Springs Historic District as surveyed, the end of that period of significance should be the end of
Correct.
the properties that we review.
And that's what I asked several years ago. Why are we even looking at most things on East Mountain? Could we change our boundaries? And I was told, no, it was too late to change the boundaries.
And we don't have to change the boundaries because we have that period of significance. So that gives you a temporal or a time boundary. So, there are some properties close to East Mountain that do fall within the period of significance. And it could be another option, too, that down the road, if we decide that, the mid-century or that transitional period, if that's another important story that we want to tell, we could do another survey.
I was going to say, we have to do another survey to bring them in.
Yeah.
Past the
And that could be a
1955.
separate historic district, or it could be an amendment adding another period of significance to what we have. But right now,
we just have two sets of rules, basically, in our guidelines. Here's the historic district, and here's from 1955 forward.
yeah. And this is something, too, that the consultants said, you can kind of handle it one of two ways. That everything has to play by the same rules regardless of time, which is kind of what we've been doing, which isn't exact. That doesn't make a lot of sense when you have an actual Victorian era property that's held to the same guidelines as a mid-century property. It's hard to manage that way, and I think that's where a lot of people's frustration and confusion kind of comes from. So this would it would still require review, so you're not getting a bunch of crazy exterior alterations that would be aesthetically inappropriate or inappropriate for the individual architectural style of a property, but it makes the process more efficient for homeowners, that if they have a non-historic or non-contributing property, they don't have to come for full review before the commission.
So do we need to vote on these?
Yeah, this would be
Do you want us
something.
tonight, or can we wait till Steve and Maggie are here?
You can wait. One thing that we do, I think the design guidelines, there's a section where they intend to discuss the project levels and the general COA process. And I'd like to get that going as quickly as possible.
What do you guys think? Do you want to vote on them tonight, or do you think, I mean, they've had these to look at for 2 weeks. Did either one call you and
No.
make any comments?
No.
Then I would say then we could go ahead, I guess.
Was there any feedback from that brochure, that postcard that was mailed out?
Yeah, I got some feedback, not as much as I had hoped. And some of it was decidedly unhelpful and antagonistic. But thanks anyway.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
The biggest thing, again, was procedural changes more than anything, so.
Because a few years back, they produced a brochure outlining, remember that? You know, that Glenna sent out to
Oh,
every
yeah. Oh,
household.
yeah.
And more than half of the brochures came back because the addresses were incorrect and that the people who they were sent to were no longer living there. And that was that should be in your archives. It was like a 3-sided brochure.
I
Outlined,
think we still have those in my office.
and we got absolutely, the only feedback we got was a big stack of returned brochures.
Yeah, there was a lot returned.
Yeah.
The only thing I see, and you probably already caught your the typo in here, on page 2, under authority, down there toward the end, established by in 1978 by, should that first by be there?
Probably not.
That's the only thing. And I'm not a proofreader very good, so I'm amazed I even.
Nope, I got it, thank you.
So do you guys just,
And I'll take another look for
yeah,
typos.
typo.
But as long as the content is agreeable, like I said, the biggest thing are the project levels.
Well, then if somebody wants to make a motion to okay this,
I'll move to approve the bylaws and rules of procedure of the Eureka Springs Historic District Commission as presented here.
do we have a second? Okay. Kyle made the motion. Judy seconded to accept the bylaws and rules of procedure of the Eureka Springs Historic District Commission as presented. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Oh, I have to say aye. 5-0. I keep forgetting, we only have 5 of us here tonight.
And, like anything, this is a living document. So if we see things down the road that aren't working or need to be tweaked, the commission has the authority to do that at any time.
So
Okay.
all the grammatical errors have to be corrected, or is this just a working example?
That was just a draft.
Okay. So we don't have to, because I found a slew of them.
You're welcome to copy edit for me if you'd like.
Really?
I have
can
lots
do
of
that.
other things I can do.
You don't want me to, so I found my one and only Kylie.
No, one
That's
thing
it.
that drives me crazy is incorrect writing.
So you go through it.
I will.
And
I
give it
did. I did already with my copy at home.
Okay.
I'll be happy to.
Please do, because I don't, after grad school, I don't know how to write anymore, and I never want to do it again.
Yeah, that's super cool.
I never did. Design guidelines update discussion. Is that a different one?
Yeah, so
Okay.
this, you guys have had the full.
Oh, the big one.
The full first draft for a while. But right before our meeting tonight, I did send you the second draft.
Yes.
That has table of contents. It is, in its entirety, what the guidelines will look like.
Which one are we looking at? Oh, this one.
So this is kind of our last chance to catch any big content issues or questions. The major changes between the first draft that you guys have had for a couple weeks and the second draft that came out today.
Yeah.
The sections that are residential and commercial, that just seems really big and clunky to me, so they separated each of those into two sections. So the architectural styles and features are separate from the maintenance and preservation recommendations, just to make it a little easier for people to navigate.
Okay.
The other question that was still outstanding was the procedural things, which we just addressed. And then they also added in maps that very briefly just overview the other historic districts that are not covered by local ordinance.
And the one that you sent today?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to
So-
comment on the excellent job that's been done by them and you and
Yeah,
all the
they-
hard work that went into it. It was just outstanding.
They've done an excellent job. And as you can tell, I made some pages bleed going through trying to, especially in the history section, because I don't like passive voice. And that's the thing that for some reason I see when I look at other people's writing. So, but other than that, I mean, even with that, it is just a fantastic tool that
Yes.
they've made, not only for you all, but for the community.
Yes.
Yeah, the first section, fantastic. And I didn't even know you'd sent an email yet because I ran from one board meeting to this one, so I hadn't seen my emails
This
yet.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she sent a new one today. She
Oh, I
said,
didn't get it.
well,
It
she just
was
sent it
sent
right before the
right
meeting.
before
Oh,
the meeting.
Then I didn't look.
Yeah, I got it, I got it late this afternoon. So you have a link to download that. I am scheduled to meet with them about any major final changes on Friday afternoon.
Yep.
So if you all have an opportunity to look through that second draft, you can just email me any observations you have. I know they've gone through and done a complete copy edit, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. That was kind of, I think, distracting for some people the first time, but unless you guys have any questions on content or anything major missing, we're getting close to the end on this.
yay. Okay, so now we have nighttime reading for the next 3 nights, guys. Okay, agenda setting for June 1st, 2022 meeting. Anybody have anything they want to put on the agenda? No? Our next meeting will be June 15th, 2022. Level 3 applications due Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. Level 2 applications due Wednesday, June 8th, 2022. Public comments, we have nobody. Commissioner comments. Peter? Judy?
No comment?
Marty? I do. June 16th will be our first Cocktails for a Cause in the last couple of years at Chelsea's at 5 p.m. I don't know the non-for-profit yet. We had a whole list, and they have to be voted on and asked if they want to be there for that one, if they can make it. And then that will be on Facebook, so just watch Main Street for that. But we're going to start cocktails again, yay. Okay, Kyle?
No comments.
Okay, director comments.
I got nothing. Thank
You've
you.
said a lot. Do I have an adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay, Kyle made the motion, Judy seconded. All in favor to adjourn? Say aye.
Aye.
Passes, yay. Yay, everybody.